So welcome. In this session, we're going to focus on enhancing T-level education for a successful academic year. My name's Tracy and I am the Health and Science TQ's Provider Development Officer. And you'll also be joined today by Gemma McGregor, who is the Education and Early Years Provider Development Officer. So our goal is to empower T-level educators with the essential tools, strategies and insights needed to deliver high quality, engaging lessons and assessments. This will ensure a great start to the academic year across the education and early years, health, science and healthcare science pathways. First, we'll focus on refining and aligning Year 1 lesson plans. This means making sure your plans meet curriculum goals and are tailored to each T-level pathway. Next, we'll explore innovative techniques to boost student engagement, and we'll look at how to make your lessons more interactive and foster a vibrant learning environment. And finally, we'll cover how to develop and integrate effective formative and summative assessment. This will help support student progress and ensure they're on track throughout their learning journey. We'll also use each examples to contextualise against different pathways. Where a pathway is not contextualised, so one that you teach, please still apply that technique or strategy to your own.
Hi everybody, and thanks for joining us on this recording. First of all, we're going to have a look at enhancing lesson plans. So best practice for lesson planning. So you'll see on the slide here, there are several bullet points and I'm going to talk through them for you now. So effective lesson planning is crucial for successful teaching and learning. And here are some key principles for effective lesson planning for your classroom. So first off, we need to be setting clear objectives. By that we mean define specific, measurable, achievement, relevant and time-bound, so SMART learning objectives. We need to ensure that objectives align with curriculum standards and learning goals. We also need a student-centred focus. Consider students' needs, their interests, and also their learning styles. Plan activities that engage students actively and promote their participation. We also need a coherent structure to our planning. We need to develop a logical sequence of activities that build on your students' prior knowledge. We need to include an introduction, a development, and a conclusion to each lesson. We need to include a variety of teaching methods. We need to use diverse instructional strategies to cater to different learning preferences and incorporate multimedia, hands-on activities, discussions, and collaborative work where we can. We need to promote active learning. Plan opportunities for students to actively engage with the material in your sessions. Include problem solving, group work and interactive discussions. Assessment and feedback is a key part of any lesson planning. We need to integrate formative assessment to monitor student progress, plan for both informal and formal assessment methods, and provide timely and constructive feedback to guide your student in their learning. Flexibility and adaptability is also a very important skill when planning for your sessions. You need to be prepared to adjust the lesson plan based on your student responses and their needs. Have a contingency plan for different scenarios or unexpected events. We also need to consider what resources are available to us. We need to ensure that all necessary materials and resources are available and accessible ready for our sessions. And where we can, incorporate technology effectively to enhance learning. We also need to consider differentiation, so planning differentiated instruction to meet the diverse needs of all of our learners. Provide varying levels of support and challenge to accommodate different abilities. And lastly, but by no means leastly, reflection and improvement. Reflect on each lesson's effectiveness and student outcomes. Use feedback and reflections to improve future lesson planning. If you can adhere to these principles, you can create really effective and engaging lesson plans that foster a positive learning environment and promote success for your students. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at aligning objectives for assessment readiness. Preparing your students for assessment is really important as part of the teaching and learning process. First of all, we need to understand the qualification specification. Begin by thoroughly reviewing the qual spec to understand the requirements and the standards that need to be met. This foundational knowledge will really guide the alignment of your assessment objectives. We need to identify the core objectives within that. So determine the core objectives of your course or programme. These are the key goals and learning outcomes that your students need to achieve based on the specification. We need to develop those SMART objectives. Create objectives that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. These SMART objectives provide clear targets and benchmarks for both teaching and assessment, ensuring that your students know exactly what's expected of them and when. Map their objectives to the specification criteria. Align your SMART objectives with criteria outlined in the qualification specification. This mapping ensures that your objectives address all of the necessary aspects of the specification and that assessments are both valid and comprehensive. Design creative activities to meet those objectives. Developing engaging and innovative strategies that allow students to demonstrate and understand their skills is key. Creative activities not only make learning more enjoyable, but also help meet the objectives in a meaningful way. Incorporate formative and summative assessments. Include both formative assessment, which is ongoing feedback and adjustments, and summative assessments, final evaluations in your plan. Formative assessments help monitor progress and guide learning, while summative assessments evaluate overall achievement. Again, review and adjust. Regularly review and adjust your objectives and activities based on student performance and feedback. This iterative process ensures that assessments remain aligned with learning goals and continue to meet the needs of your students. Provide clear instructions and set expectations. Offer clear instructions and set explicit expectations for all of your assessments. This transparency helps students understand what's required and how they'll be evaluated, which supports better performance and reduces uncertainty. Using resources and materials with clear links to placements and the specification. This is extremely important across all TQ pathways. Ensure that the resources and materials used in your assessment are directly related to the qualification specification and your students' practical placements. This relevance really helps students apply their learning in real-world contexts and reinforces the connection between theory and practice. Okay, so I'm going to move on to a more specific example here, and this is an example from education and early years in terms of teaching learning theory. So this is an example of how you can really apply those key areas to your lesson planning. So initially, we're going to look at a qualification specification statement, and here we have understand that students must demonstrate an understanding of foundational learning theories, including behaviourism, constructivism, and cognitive development. The first thing we need to do is identify the core learning objectives. So here we can write our objective as students will be able to explain and apply key concepts from behaviourism, constructivism, and cognitive development within educational contexts. We can map this to our session planning and to the qualification spec by ensuring that this objective aligns with the specific requirements for learning theories and their application. We'll then need to design an activity and plan for our students to be engaged throughout these activities in our sessions. An example of some activities we could look at here would be a case study. So analysing a real-world scenario to identify and discuss the application of different learning theories. A group discussion perhaps, where they would facilitate a discussion on how various theories could be applied to solve educational challenges. Or a theoretical application, so assign a task where students create lesson plans or educational interventions of their own based on specific learning theories. We then need to look at an assessment method. How can we appropriately assess our students' learning? And using a mix of formative and summative assessment. Examples of formative assessments could be conducting quizzes and in-class reflections to gauge understanding of learning theory. And an example of a summative may be to assign a research paper or a presentation where students critically analyse a learning theory and its practical application, remembering to link their own experiences to what they've seen in practice. And then lastly, as always, review. Encourage your students to reflect on their own learning, and this will encourage self-assessment and give the students ownership of their own development. You can also evaluate your lesson plans yourself to see whether or not anything could be improved moving forward if you were to deliver this session again. So this next slide is some examples of some instructional strategies you can employ in your classroom. So instructional strategies encompass any type of learning technique a teacher uses to help their students learn or gain better understanding of the course material. They allow teachers to make the learning experience more fun and practical, and can also encourage students to take more of an active role in their education. First, we have direct instruction. Provide clear, explicit teaching of concepts and skills through lectures, demonstrations, and step-by-step guidance. Inquiry-based learning. Encourage your students to ask questions, explore, and investigate topics. Facilitate learning through research, experimentation, and problem solving. Collaborative learning. Promote group work and peer interaction. Use cooperative learning techniques such as group projects, peer tutoring, and discussions to enhance understanding and teamwork. Differentiated instruction. Tailor teaching methods and materials to accommodate diverse learning styles, abilities, and interests. Provide varying levels of support and challenge based on your students' individual needs. Active learning. Engage your students actively in the learning process through activities like group discussions, case studies, role play, and hands-on experiments. The scaffolding approach. Provide temporary support and guidance to help students achieve a higher level of understanding or skill, and gradually reduce support as your students become more proficient. Problem-based learning. Present your students with real-world problems, concept mapping, or allow your students to solve and promote critical thinking and application of knowledge. Encourage your students to research, analyse, and develop solutions. A flipped classroom. Reverse your traditional teaching model by having students review instructional content at home and use class time for discussions, activities, and application of knowledge. Concept mapping. Use visual tools to help students organise and represent knowledge about a topic. Concept maps can really help in understanding relationships and integrating new information. Technology integration. You can incorporate digital tools and resources, such as educational software, interactive whiteboards, and online platforms to help enhance learning and engagement. Socratic seminars. Facilitate discussions that encourage students to think critically and articulate their own ideas. Use questioning techniques to stimulate deeper analysis and dialogue. Graphic organisers. Use visual aids like charts, diagrams, and tables to help structure and understand information, making complex concepts more accessible. Formative assessment. Implement regular informal assessments to monitor student progress and understanding. Use feedback to adjust instruction and address learning gaps. Peer teaching. Allow your students to teach and explain concepts to their peers. This approach reinforces their own understanding and helps develop communication skills. Reciprocal teaching. Use a strategy where students take turns being the teacher. Guide their peers through reading and discussion activities. This really promotes active engagement and comprehension. Gamification. While this might be quite a new approach, you can integrate game-like elements into the learning process, such as rewards, challenges, and competitions to motivate and engage your students. Experiential learning. Provide learning experiences through activities like field trips, simulations, hands-on projects that connect that theoretical knowledge to real-world context. Differentiated feedback. Give tailored feedback that addresses individual student needs and learning styles. Here you can focus on specific strengths and areas for improvement. Mindfulness and reflection. Incorporate practices into your planning that encourages students to reflect on their own learning, set goals, and develop self-regulation and mindfulness skills. And lastly, storytelling. Use narratives and storytelling techniques to make content more engaging and relatable. This can really help in presenting information in a memorable and meaningful way. By incorporating some or all of these strategies, you can create really dynamic and effective learning environments that cater for diverse student needs and foster deeper understanding and engagement. Next, we're going to move on to principles for refining your lesson plans. Refining lesson plans involves continually improving and adapting them to enhance teaching effectiveness and student learning outcomes. Here are some core principles for refining your lesson plans. Reflect on student feedback. Gather and analyse feedback from your students about what worked well and what didn't. You can use this information to adjust and improve for future lessons. Analyse your students' performance. Review assessment results and classroom observations to identify areas where students struggled or indeed where they excelled. Adjust your lesson plans to address these gaps and reinforce the strengths. Align with learning objectives. Make sure that lesson activities and assessments are closely aligned with learning objectives. Revisit them and refine them as needed to match students' evolving needs and curriculum changes. Incorporate new insights and resources. Stay updated with new teaching strategies, educational resources, and technological tools. You can integrate relevant innovations into lesson plans to enhance learning experiences. Differentiate instruction. Adjust your lesson plans to accommodate diverse learning styles and abilities. Implement different instruction strategies to meet the needs of all of your students effectively. Enhance engagement. Evaluate and improve engagement strategies. Incorporate interactive and varied activities to maintain student interest and motivation. Monitor your lesson flow and timing. You can assess how well the lesson plan adheres to the allotted time and if it flows logically. Make adjustments to pacing and transition to ensure smooth delivery where it's needed. Emphasize clarity and organisation. Ensure your plans are clear, well organised and easy to follow. Refine instructions and materials to improve clarity and accessibility for students and colleagues should they need to deliver one of your sessions. Review command verbs. Use these command verbs to help students order their skills and see where they apply to specific assessments within their qualification. Promote active learning. Enhance opportunities for students to actively engage with the content. Incorporate collaborative activities, hands-on tasks, and critical thinking activities. Adjust based on your classroom dynamics. Adapt your lesson plans based on specific dynamics and the needs of the classroom, including student behaviour, group dynamics, and any unforeseen circumstances. Seek feedback from your peers. Collaborate with colleagues to review and refine your lesson plans. Peer feedback can provide really valuable perspectives and suggestions for improvement. Reflect on teaching practices. Regularly reflect on your own teaching practice and its effectiveness. Identify areas for personal growth and adjust your lesson plans to incorporate new teaching techniques. Ensure accessibility. Make sure your lesson plans are accessible to all of your students, including those with disabilities. You can modify materials and activities to be inclusive and supportive. And lastly, again, document and review those changes. Keep detailed records of changes you've made to your lesson plans and the reasons behind them. Review and evaluate the impact of these modifications on your student outcomes. By following these core principles, we can continuously refine our lesson plans to create more effective, engaging, and responsive learning experiences for our students.
So now we're going to explore engagement strategies in a bit more detail. So to begin with, we're going to explore COVID-19 and the implications for student engagement. So a recent study explored the rapid shift into online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic, revealing both challenges and opportunities for maintaining student engagement in virtual environments. As education entered this new normal, several key opportunities emerged. Firstly, online learning offered greater flexibility in scheduling, allowing students to engage with course materials at their own pace. Additionally, the adoption of innovative educational technologies provided new ways to enhance their learning experience. This transition also fostered the enhancement of digital skills, improving students' digital literacy and communication abilities, skills that are increasingly essential in today's digital world. When applying these insights to T levels, a new approach to blended learning is crucial. The proposed model involves delivering theoretical content online while reserving in-person sessions for practical hands-on training. For example, for health T levels specifically, the pandemic has underscored the importance of telehealth and digital diagnostics. Students must develop proficiency in these areas to succeed in modern healthcare environments. Furthermore, there is a heightened emphasis on effective digital communication, vital for virtual patient interactions. To support this transition, educators are encouraged to take several action steps. Integrating online tools such as learning management systems into course delivery will be essential. Additionally, training should be provided to enhance students' proficiency in using tools such as telehealth and interpreting digital health data. And finally, ensuring that all students have access to the necessary technology and support systems is paramount for maintaining equity in education. By embracing these strategies, educators can better prepare students for a world where digital proficiency and adaptability are key to success. So now let's explore a little bit more detail around what actually motivates our students and how our students are motivated. So we're going to explore the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation occurs when students are engaged because of internal awards, like a love of learning or interest in a subject. These students learn to value learning for its own merit, regardless of any external factors. An example of intrinsic motivation is a student learning new vocabulary words because they love to read. Extrinsic motivation, however, is learning because of external factors. Students may be motivated to learn to pass a test, to gain a reward, or to avoid punishment. An example of extrinsic motivation is a student who is studying so their parents will not ground them for poor grades. Generally, students lose engagement after being externally rewarded. This suggests that extrinsic motivation is short-term and can lead students away from an inherent love of learning. As a teacher, you can prevent this by prioritising intrinsically motivated learning in the classroom. So let's explore these two different motivations in relation to T-level students. So intrinsic motivation refers to engaging in activities for that inherent satisfaction or interest, that rather than for some separable consequences. So for T-level students, intrinsic motivation can be a powerful driver of engagement and success, particularly in vocational and technical education, where passion and interest in a specific field can significantly enhance learning outcomes. So let's look at the characteristics of intrinsic motivation. So to begin with is interest and enjoyment. Students are motivated by a genuine interest in the subject matter. For example, a student in T-level might be intrinsically motivated by a passion for creating resources to support teaching, for example, in education in early years. Personal growth and mastery. So the desire to gain expertise and master skills in T levels, this might manifest in students wanting to excel in practical applications, such as health students perfecting diagnostic skills. And finally, autonomy and self-determination. So intrinsic motivation is often associated with a sense of autonomy. T-level students who have the freedom to choose projects or focus areas may feel more motivated to engage deeply. So what's the benefits of intrinsic motivation for T-level students? So it can enhance engagement. Students are more likely to engage fully with the course material. Intrinsically motivated students often achieve higher levels of performance and mastery, and they are more likely to persevere through challenges and setbacks. So let's explore an example in a T-level context. So a student in education early years, T-level, who enjoys working with students and is passionate about childhood development may intrinsically strive to understand pedagogical theories and practices. In healthcare science, a student fascinated by medical technology might delve deeper into learning about diagnostic equipment and procedures. So now let's explore extrinsic motivation. So as mentioned, extrinsic motivation involves engaging in an activity to achieve an external reward or to avoid a negative outcome. For T-level students, extrinsic motivators might include grades, qualifications, job prospects, or praise from teachers and parents. So what are the characteristics of extrinsic motivation? So first is external rewards, motivation driven by outcomes like grades, certificates, or future job opportunities. For instance, students might be motivated to complete a T-level in health for the qualification needed to enter nursing or other healthcare careers. Also, is it the avoidance of negative consequences? So motivation to avoid failure, punishment, or negative judgment. For example, students might work hard to avoid poor grades or negative feedback. And finally, social approval. So the desire for praise and recognition from peers, parents, or instructors can also drive extrinsic motivation. So what are the benefits for extrinsic motivation for T-level students? First of all, is that goal achievement. It can effectively motivate students to complete necessary tasks and achieve specific goals. External incentives can boost performance, especially in tasks where the intrinsic motivation may not be initially strong. And it also helps provide a structured environment where expectations and outcomes are clearly defined. So let's explore an example in T-level context. So a student in the science T-level might be extrinsically motivated by the desire to secure a prestigious apprenticeship or university placement. In health T-levels, students might work diligently to achieve high grades in order to be competitive in job markets or higher education opportunities. So for educators involved in T-levels, it's a critical challenge in balancing and integrating both intrinsic and extrinsic motivational strategies. While intrinsic motivation, driven by a genuine love for learning, is ideal for fostering deep, sustained engagement, extrinsic motivators can be highly effective in kick-starting interests and providing clear direction. To achieve this balance, educators can focus on several key strategies. They can foster a love for learning, encourage curiosity and exploration by allowing students to delve into topics that genuinely interest them. This nurtures an intrinsic motivation that sustains their engagement over time. Give clear pathways to rewards. It's important to connect students' current efforts with their future goals by clearly linking academic achievements to tangible outcomes, such as career opportunities or certifications. Educators can provide a sense of direction that fuels motivation. Teachers can support autonomy, offering students a degree of choice and control over their learning projects and assessments enhances their sense of ownership and personal investment in their education. This autonomy can significantly boost intrinsic motivation. And finally, offer recognition and feedback. Providing positive reinforcement and constructive feedback is crucial. Acknowledging students' efforts and progress helps build confidence and encourages them to continue striving towards their goals. By carefully balancing these intrinsic and extrinsic strategies, T-level educators can create a more engaging and motivating learning environment that empowers students to reach their full potential. Engaging students effectively is essential for successful learning outcomes, and several techniques can help achieve this goal. So through active learning, this approach, as mentioned earlier, encourages students' participation through discussion, problem solving, and collaborative tasks. By actively involving students in the learning process, it promotes deeper understanding and retention of the material. Flipped classroom. Students obviously can study the course material at home, freeing up classroom time for hands-on activities and practical application. And this shift allows for that more interactive and personalised learning experience where students can apply what they've learned and engage in meaningful discussions. As mentioned earlier by Gemma, we also have gamification and scaffolding, both really important techniques for engaging. So by incorporating these techniques, educators can create dynamic and interactive learning environments. So let's explore some of these in a bit more detail and explore more new strategies that have come out of research that you can apply to your teaching. So implementing culturally relevant pedagogy is crucial for educators, especially in T levels, which often include students from diverse cultural backgrounds. The concept, as articulated by Ladson Billings in her seminal 1995 work, emphasises the importance of aligning teaching practices with students' cultural contexts. Doing so not only increases engagement, but it also enhances academic success by making course content more relatable and meaningful for students. This approach is particularly vital in the context of T levels. So for examples, in education early years T level, culturally relevant pedagogy is essential for developing inclusive learning environments. Future educators need to respect and incorporate diverse cultural backgrounds to support the holistic development of children. By grounding education in the cultural realities of students, we're not only making learning more engaging and relatable, but also support the social and cultural identity development of our students. To implement these principles effectively, educators can take several key actions. So they can incorporate cultural context, use examples, case studies, and teaching materials that resonate with the diverse backgrounds of students. This practice helps make learning more relevant and engaging. Develop inclusive materials, create resources that reflect a wide range of cultures and experiences. This inclusivity ensures that all students see themselves represented in the curriculum. And promote cultural awareness. Facilitate discussion on diversity and inclusion, encouraging students to explore and respect different cultural perspectives. The ultimate goal is to prepare students not just to succeed academically, but also to create and sustain inclusive educational settings in their future careers. By embracing culturally relevant pedagogy, we can equip students with the skills and awareness they need to thrive in a diverse world. Next, we have the digital learning and technology integration, which we have touched on already. And we've highlighted, that it's becoming increasingly vital in modern education. And it offers a powerful tool to enhance student engagement and personalised learning experience. So this specific article by Azevedo and Gasevich highlights the value of using learning analytics to support this transformation. So through personalised learning, we have learning analytics, which play a crucial role in creating tailored educational experiences. By analysing data on student performance and behaviour, educators can adapt their teaching strategies to meet individual learning needs and preferences. This personalisation not only enhances student engagement, but also empowers students to take control of their learning by tracking their progress and interacting with customised materials. Next, we have effective use of digital tools. So digital tools such as interactive simulations and digital portfolios are key to support personalised learning. Virtual labs and simulations, for example, prepare students for technology-driven environments by helping them visualise complex scientific concepts in a more accessible and engaging way. These tools not only enhance understanding, but also provide hands-on experience that is critical for developing practical skills. And what's the implication for education? So for prospective teachers, the integration of digital tools offers an opportunity to explore various teaching strategies and adapt to diverse learning styles. Digital classroom and teaching aids can be effectively simulated, providing a valuable platform for teacher preparation and classroom management practice. So by integrating learning analytics and digital tools into education, we can create a more engaging and personalised learning environment. This approach not only enriches the learning experience, but also better prepares students to face future challenges in a rapidly evolving digital world. Next, we have peer learning and social interaction, which plays a crucial role in fostering a deeper student engagement, especially when paired with authentic assessment. The study by Dawson and Poole highlights how these approaches can significantly enhance the learning experience by connecting classroom activities with real-world challenges. Authentic assessments engage students with tasks that closely simulate professional challenges. These real-world tasks encourage the practical application of knowledge and skills, ensuring that students are not just learning theoretically, but are also prepared to apply their learning in real-world contexts. Peer learning further deepens engagement by promoting collaboration through group projects and interactive activities. By working together, students can enhance their understanding of practical and ethical aspects across various fields. This collaborative approach is particularly valuable in healthcare education, where teamwork is critical. In health T levels, peer learning authentic assessments are essential for preparing students for career in healthcare support and care. Group projects focused on patient case studies help students develop crucial skills in patient interaction and healthcare practices. By engaging in collaborative tasks that simulate real-world scenarios, students can gain hands-on experiences that mirrors the teamwork required in clinical and research environments. This experience is invaluable in ensuring career readiness. So incorporating authentic assessments and peer learning into education is vital for preparing students for professional environments. These methods not only enhance practical skills, but also foster collaboration, making students more equipped to succeed in their future careers. Self-regulated learning is a powerful approach that promotes student autonomy, leading to a greater engagement and improved academic performance. In his influential work, Becoming a Self-Regulated Learner, Zimmerman outlines key strategies to foster this autonomy in students. First of all is self-regulated learning. So Zimmerman emphasizes the importance of students taking control of their own learning by setting personal goals, monitoring their progress and reflecting on their achievements. These strategies empower students to become more proactive in their educational journey, turning them into active participants rather than passive recipients of information. Encouraging goal setting. So when students set specific achievable goals or SMART goals, that was as mentioned earlier by Gemma, they are more motivated to engage with the material. This goal-orientated approach gives students a clear direction and purpose in their studies, enhancing their commitment to learning. Self-monitoring is another critical aspect of self-regulated learning. By regularly tracking their own progress, students can identify areas where they need to improve and adjust their strategies accordingly. This ongoing assessment helps maintain focus and ensures continuous improvement. And of course, the all-important reflection on learning. So reflection is the final piece of the self-regulated learning process. By taking time to evaluate what they have learned and how they have learned it, students gain deeper insights into their own strengths and weaknesses. This reflection not only reinforces learning, but also builds confidence and fosters a growth mindset. So by implementing these strategies, educators can help students become self-regulated learners, increasing their autonomy, engagement, and academic performance. When students are empowered to take charge of their own learning, they are better equipped to succeed both in and beyond the classroom. So now we're going to explore active learning strategies in a little bit more detail, because they're really crucial for enhancing student engagement and deeper understanding by directly involving students in the learning process. So research by Felder and Brent in their paper Active Learning and Introduction, these strategies included problem-based learning and collaborative projects, significantly contribute to a more interactive and effective educational experience. So active learning involves that engagement of students, that hands-on activity that require them to apply their knowledge practically, whether through problem solving, group projects, or case studies. They foster a deeper connection with the material, moving beyond that passive listening to active participation. So let's apply this in relation to T levels. So active learning is particularly well suited for T-levels, which emphasise practical hands-on experience as a core part of the curriculum. By integrating these strategies, T-level courses can ensure that students not only understand theoretical concepts, but also know how to apply them in real-world settings. So let's link this to T-level science. So in the context of science education, active learning strategies such as laboratory experiments, field studies, and scientific investigations are invaluable. These methods allow students to directly apply theoretical knowledge to real-world context, enhancing their comprehension of scientific principles and increasing engagement. By actively participating in experiments and investigations, students gain a deeper, more practical understanding of the subject matter. So active learning strategies are integral to the success of T-levels, particularly in fields like science, where the practical application of knowledge is essential. Again, this also follows suit with the other very practical orientated qualifications of healthcare science, health and education in early years. By fostering active student involvement, these strategies not only enhance understanding, but also prepare students for the challenges they will face in their future careers.
Thank you, Tracy. So now we're going to move on to integrating assessments into our session planning and how we can actually use assessment as part of our engagement strategy for our students. So on the upcoming slide, you'll see a table which includes several types of assessment methods. You'll probably be familiar with these, but we'll talk through them in a little more detail. So across the top, you'll be able to see we have assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. You can see there that each type is valid in its own way, and if we use a mixture of all of these types of assessment, we can engage our students, allow them to take ownership of their own progress, and also plan to help them level up their skills within the T-level. So first off, we have assessment of learning, which you all might know as summative assessment. This type of assessment is used by teachers to determine the progress or application of knowledge and skills against established standards. It typically involves formal assessments that provide a snapshot of student achievement and are often used for purposes of grading and setting standards. They're usually conducted by teachers, and they're formal assessments such as exams and final projects that collect evidence of student progress and might be used to assign an overall grade. They typically occur periodically, such as at the end of a term or unit or the end of a programme, and they're used to rank and report on student performance, providing a measure of achievement and determining overall success. They do focus on scoring, grades, and in some cases competition. Next, you'll see assessment for learning, which is a form of formative assessment. This assessment method involves both teachers and peers checking progress in learning to help learners understand how they can improve. It includes various formal and informal activities that guide future learning and instructional planning. This can be conducted by both teachers and peers and involves both formal and informal assessments such as quizzes, class discussions, which can all inform the planning of future learning activities. This type of assessment provides ongoing feedback throughout the learning progress to improve learning by offering timely support and guidance to help your learners advance. And it focuses heavily on feedback, support, and collaboration. The last is assessment as learning, which is also a form of formative assessment. This is where learners take responsibility for their own learning by asking questions about their learning process and exploring ways to improve. This form of assessment involves self-assessment and reflection. Think back to Tracy's previous slides around Zimmerman and self-regulated learning and autonomy when applying assessment as learning. It's usually conducted by the learners themselves and their peers, and it utilises both formal and informal feedback, encouraging students to reflect on their progress and identify next steps in their own learning journey. It occurs through continual reflection, which is encouraged across all T-levels, and self-assessment. It's done to foster deeper learning and help students learn how to learn, enhancing their ability to self-evaluate and grow, and focuses heavily on collaboration, reflection, and self-evaluation. The slide you can see on your screen now is a bit of a graphic representation of those different types of assessment. You can see in the centre there we have learning with assessment of, as and for surrounding it. We can see that assessment of learning falls into a more high stakes category of assessment, and assessment for learning and as learning more lower stakes, meaning that it's more developmental and the students can be involved in their own learning journey and help themselves improve, as well as us as teachers supporting them to level up their skills. You can see on one side of the screen that towards the higher stakes assessment, it's the teacher's responsibility in those decision making around assessment, whereas in the lower stakes, the student is responsible and they're the decision maker regarding their own learning journey. It's really important to try and use all of these forms of assessment in giving your students a rounded experience of assessment and engaging them and motivating them within their own learning. Next, we're going to have a look at some formative assessment strategies. I've selected a few on this screen that I'll talk through now. However, you will see some more on the next slide, which you might want to make a note of. So here on this slide, we have entrance tickets. So at the start of each class, students engage with an entrance ticket. This might be a question or a prompt designed to activate their prior knowledge. This initial activity helps both students and teachers gauge existing understanding and prepare for the day's lesson. An exit ticket. As your class concludes, students complete an exit ticket by writing a brief response to a question or summarising what they've learned during the lesson. This quick assessment provides immediate feedback on student comprehension and helps you identify any areas that might need further clarification. Concept maps. Your students can create visual representations of their understanding through a concept map. These diagrams illustrate the relationships between key concepts, enabling students to organise and connect their knowledge in a meaningful way. This could be done using a PowerPoint presentation slide, generative AI, ThingLink. Various online tools can be used to create concept maps. And gamification, we've mentioned this several times, Tracy and I. So incorporating gamification into learning, students could earn points and badges for completing quizzes and participating in discussions. A leaderboard could track their progress, introducing that competitive element that motivates engagement and makes learning both fun and interactive. And learning stations. The classroom can be transformed into a dynamic learning environment with various stations, each featuring different activities or problems to solve. This hands-on approach allows students to engage with content in diverse ways, facilitating active learning and assessment. On this slide, you'll see a selection of additional formative assessment strategies. As you're watching this back, you might want to take a note of some that you haven't tried yet, perhaps go away and research them and think about how you could integrate these types of assessment into your classroom once you start delivery from September. Next, we're going to move on to some effective summative assessment strategies. Again, we've picked out several and there'll be more following that you can take a look at your leisure. So, professional development plans. Students are tasked with creating and presenting comprehensive plans for their ongoing professional development. These plans are built upon their experiences and learning from their T-level course, incorporating their reflections and insights into their future growth. This really does allow the students to take ownership of their own development. Online assessments. Assessments take on a digital format with computer-based technical tests designed to evaluate students' technical knowledge. You could use online quizzes and exams to further challenge their understanding and apply technical concepts. Additionally, students are given the opportunity to create their own online assessments for their peers, allowing them to demonstrate their grasp of the subject matter and their ability to evaluate others. Employer feedback. Formal feedback from industry placement supervisors provides critical insights into students' performance and skills in real-world settings. This feedback is invaluable for understanding how our students apply their learning in a professional environment and identifying areas for improvement. And technical reports. Students produce detailed reports that cover various aspects of project planning, execution, and their outcomes. These technical reports are complemented by case studies specific to their industry, offering a thorough analysis of their practical experiences and the challenges they face during their projects. Again, this next slide has a list of summative assessment strategies that you may or may not have tried in your classroom. Again, please take a look, see if there are any that you haven't tried yet, and please do go away and research those and see if you can add those into your lesson planning for the term ahead. Okay, so now we're going to look in more detail at some practical tips for integrating assessment and how we can do that seamlessly into our curriculum. This is really essential for ensuring that students' learning is effectively measured and supported. And here's some practical tips. So first up, begin with those clear learning objectives. We've mentioned this before, however, it's really important. Start by defining what your students should know, what they should understand, and what they should be able to do or apply by the end of each lesson, unit, or indeed the course. By clearly articulating these outcomes, you can design assessments that directly measure these objectives, ensuring they're both purposeful and relevant. Use formative assessment frequently. Incorporate regular checks for understanding, such as quizzes, exit tickets, peer reviews, and class discussion. These formative assessments provide ongoing feedback and really allow you to adjust instruction as you need to and keep your students on track. Diversify your assessment methods. Use a variety of assessment formats, including written, oral, practical, and creative tasks. This approach caters to different learning styles and skills. Incorporating project-based learning also allows students to explore content deeply and apply their knowledge in meaningful ways, which is really key across all T-level routes. Embed assessments in daily activities. Design activities where assessment naturally occurs as part of the learning progress. For example, a discussion activity in a language lesson can also serve as an assessment of speaking skills. So use authentic assessments that require students to apply their knowledge in those real-world situations. Use rubrics and scoring guides where you can. Develop clear rubrics that outline the criteria for success and share these with students in advance. Encourage self-assessment and peer assessment using these, which helps students understand expectations and fosters reflective learning. Plan for ongoing assessment. Make assessment a continuous process rather than a one-time event. Include opportunities for students to demonstrate learning progress over time and allow them to revise their work based on their own feedback, reinforcing the learning cycle and motivating them as they can see how far they've travelled. Integrate technology and tools. Leverage digital tools for quizzes, polls, and interactive activities that provide instant feedback for your students. Use learning management systems where you can to track and assess student progress, making it easier to integrate assessments into daily activities. Differentiation and inclusive assessment. Design assessments that are accessible to all students, including those with special educational needs. Offer multiple ways for students to demonstrate their understanding, ensuring that every student has the opportunity to exceed and indeed improve. Reflect and iterate. Again, regularly review assessment data to identify trends, gaps, and successes. You can use this information to refine your lesson plans and your schemes of work. Engage in professional development to stay updated on best practices in assessment and instruction. And the last one, which is really key, collaboration and communication. Work collaboratively with colleagues to align assessments across the curriculum, ensuring consistency and coherence. Maintain open communication with parents too around assessment practices and their child's progress, fostering a supportive learning environment. Following these tips, we can seamlessly integrate assessments into our curriculum and enhance our students' learning and provide meaningful feedback throughout the educational process. Next, we'll apply some of these tips to T-levels. So what you can see on the screen here are some specific examples, and hopefully these will apply to your area. However, should you be watching this from an area that isn't covered on these slides, these can still be applied. So integrating effective assessment strategies into T-levels is essential for preparing our students for their future careers. Here's how these practical tips can be tailored specifically to T-levels in education, health, and healthcare science and science. So beginning with clear learning objectives. Within T-levels, clear learning objectives are key to ensuring students gain the necessary skills and knowledge for their specific fields. So for education, define outcomes such as understanding child development theories or applying effective teaching methods in educational settings. For health and healthcare science, establish objectives focused on patient care practices, health and safety regulations, or diagnostic procedures. And for science, set goals around mastering scientific principles, developing laboratory skills, for example, or applying scientific knowledge in a real-world context. Using rubrics and scoring guides, these provide clear criteria for assessing student performance in practical and theoretical tasks. So specific criteria. Develop detailed rubrics for assessing practical skills like communication with patients in healthcare science, lab technique accuracy in science, or classroom management within education. Peer and self-assessment. Encourage your students to use these rubrics for self-assessment and peer review. This approach is particularly valuable in practical or group work settings, enhancing reflective practice and critical thinking. Diversify assessment methods. Use a variety of assessment methods. This ensures that all students can demonstrate their learning effectively and can be used in multiple contexts. So in education, assessments could include classroom observations, lesson planning, or a reflective journal. In health and healthcare science, use patient case simulations, diagnostic tests, and health promotion projects. And for scientific investigations, science students could be assessed through experimental design, data analysis, and presenting research findings, all which develop critical skills for scientific inquiry. Reflect and iterate. Continuous reflection and improvement are vital for maintaining high educational standards across all T-levels. Data analysis. Regularly review assessment data to identify strengths and areas for improvement in both teaching and student learning outcomes. You can use this data to refine curriculum delivery and assessment methods, ensuring they stay aligned with industry standards and meet the evolving needs of your students. Collaboration and communication. This is key. Strong collaboration and clear communication enhance the relevance and effectiveness of your assessments. Collaborate with industry professionals to ensure assessments are aligned with current practices and standards, especially important for work placement and practical assessments. And communicate with parents and potential employers about assessment strategies and the skills that students are developing. This transparency fosters support and ensures that students are well prepared for their careers. By applying these tips to T-levels, we can create robust and relevant assessment frameworks that not only measure student achievement, but also equip them with the skills and knowledge needed to excel in their chosen fields.
Thank you, Gemma. So as we come to the end of our journey towards T-level excellence, we would like to share how we can continue to support you on this journey. So we have additional support that's available to all of our T-level educators. And here's what you can count on. So we've got a T-level provider hub. So this is in its initial stage of creations, and over the next academic year, you should see it expand and you'll be able to access a wealth of resources and guidance on this hub. It will become your go-to place for all things related to T-level delivery. So make sure you get on there and save that link and watch it progress over the next year. You also have a support. Your centre has support from a dedicated account executive. These are usually at a higher management level who meets with your account execs, and they're there to assist with any questions or challenges that you may encounter along the way. And then for yourself, our teachers, we have these curriculum consultations. So these are throughout your first 2 years of delivery, and these sessions focus on enhancing your teaching and learning strategies, specifically to your centre through a 1-hour consultation and ensuring you're on the right track. And if you have any questions or need help, you have a dedicated email which you can see on the screen here, where we're there to support you whenever you need it. So finally, I would really appreciate, or we both would really appreciate, that you take a few minutes to complete this feedback form. Your insights are very invaluable, and it really helps us explore where we need to go next to ensure that you reach that T-level teaching excellence. So thank you very much for watching, and all the best for the next academic year. Thank you.